The Siddur on page number 5. We have some song sheets today. We have 3 songs. The first song is 2 pages. I did not have a chance to staple it, and I apologize. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But for now, we'll begin with the Shalom Aleichem on page number 5 in the Siddur. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchoni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And please now we turn to Yedid Nefesh on page number 10. And as I've said before, Yedid Nefesh is almost like writing the nickname of God inside each and every one of us. The first stanza begins with a Yud. You might call that God's first initial. The second stanza begins with a Hey, God's second initial. And this song, this poem speaks about having a soul, which is a little bit of an element of God. The third stanza begins with a Vav, and the fourth stanza begins with a Hey. Those are the 4 letters that make up God's very special name. Tonight we're singing the first 2 stanzas, but it still has the reference Yah, which is God, like Hallelujah. So when we're singing about the soul, and each one of us has a soul, think about it that the special essence of you is God has named you your very self. God has named you your very self. God's name is within you. God's name is within you. God's name is with you. The soul is that aspect of God's own identity that is within each and every one of us. God's name is in me. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishachavdach El Ritzonach Yarot Avdach Kemo Ayal Yishtachave Mohadarach Ki Yedidotach mino fetzuf v'chol tam hadur na'eh ziv olam nafshi cholat avatoch ana el narefana Allah Be'arot la noam zivach az titchazek v'titrape v'hayetalach Shivchat Olam, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai Dai Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai Dai Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai Dai Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai Dai Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai, Yada Dai 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 Dai. And on page 11. L'chon eranen al Adonai, nari al etzur yishenu, nikadma fanav b'torah, bizmirot nari alo, nikadma fanav b'torah, bizmirot nari alo, ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mekerei aretz, v'toafot tarim lo, asher biyado mekerei aretz, v'toafot tarim lo. On the English side. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands form the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. On page 12, the last stanza on the Hebrew side. Arbaim shana kut v'dor v'omoram to'ei levavhem v'hem lo yidu drachai asher nishbati v'api im yivon el menuchati. And turning now in the Siddur to Mizmor LeDavid on page number 21, on page 21 in the Siddur. Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod roz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavu Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al amayim, el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shaver arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kmo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kmo ven re'emim. Kol Adonai chotzei lahavot eish, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol el ayalot. Vayechesof ye'arot, uvechalo kulo omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech le'olam, Adonai oz li'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. On page 12. This is Ana B'choach. This is a poem from the genre of Kabbalistic writings. And it comes here into the service because there's a play on words, bless you, in the Hebrew. The lettering is very specific. So it's an aleph and a bet and a gimel, and then it jumps back and forth, and there's a pattern. It's playing with words. Look at the English. If you would, may your mighty right hand undo the knot that ties us up. Accept the prayers of your people. You who are revered, raise us up. Almighty, if you would, guard as the apple of your eye those who seek your unity.
Bless them, cleanse them, have compassion on them, always act justly toward them.
Mighty Holy One, in your abundant goodness, guide your people.
Alone exalted, turn to your people who invoke your holiness.
Listen to our pleas, hear our cries, knowing the hidden depths within us.
Praise be the name of the one whose glorious sovereignty is forever and ever.
Before we go to the Charudi, I want to turn to our first song because of this phrase, listen to our pleas, hear our cries. And we have some song sheets. And let me explain the first song sheet, which is of 2 pages. Some of us know the word halavai. Do you recognize the word halavai? It's Hebrew and Yiddish, ochalake. So halavai means if only someday it will happen. Please let it be, make it so, halavai. This is a well-known Israeli folk song. And it's on my mind and in my heart for a very specific reason. Right now, it is it's about 1 in the morning, thank you, in Israel. And in about 10 hours or so, maybe 12 hours or so, 4 of our Israeli chaylot, our Israeli female soldiers, are going to be halavai released. And we have been watching and attending to the news for the past 2 weeks, knowing that stage by stage, Israelis are coming home. And I think the word of the day is halavai, as we anticipate the next 30 or so days, as more and more of our hostages are coming, soldiers and civilians are coming home. So that's why I have this song here for us, halavai. It's a very upbeat song. It's a very fast beat song, and I just want to show you a couple of words because it moves very, very quickly. But I want you to catch some of it if you can, and that's why the translation is here, and I just didn't have time to get them stapled. So you've got 2 pages here. So you've got 2 pages to the first song sheet, and then the other songs are each 1 page. So, but if you look at the top of the first line, it's say a prayer, and I think you can understand the English, where it says say a prayer. But the next page is labeled translation halavai, but on the page it says say a prayer, and Israel opened the gates of heaven. You see many phrases that are beginning with the word halavai. Halavai Yom yitzmach mitoch sufa goeshet. There's going to be a calm in the midst of a great storm. V'lo tova lam hamatana, and a great gift that we all have is not going to be lost. Shehamidbar yatzmiach eseb desha. Even the desert itself will bloom in flowers and beautiful plants. Halavai v'odnei shei b'tzel te'ena. Someday, each one of us is going to sit in peace under his own fig tree. And we all know that image from the Tanakh, from the Bible, of dwelling in peace under a tree, and it's giving forth fruit. And then, halavai shalonichav ve'ish achiv yochav. We won't lose our beloved brothers. And that's very much on our minds. V'yit parchu shuv sharei gan Eden. And even the Garden of Eden is going to grow and flourish. And you have this translation here on page 2 of the first song sheet. First song sheet has 2 pages, Hebrew and English, and as you'll catch it, but this goes very, very fast. But the main word that occurs over and over again with this very hopeful rhythm in this popular Israeli folk song of Halavai is, it's all going to be better. It's all going to be, there's going to be blessing, there's going to be life, there's going to be safety, there's going to be joy, there's going to be happiness. We're going to be standing in the Garden of Eden again and again, halavai, halavai, halavai. And those are our thoughts. So this song, again, it's at 2 pages if you want to try to almost follow along in the Hebrew, or they've got the translation, and all you need to do is sing the word halavai over and over again, and you'll get 80% of the song, halavai. That's the word for the Shabbos. This is Shabbat Halavai. May there be peace and safety and blessing and unity and closeness and reprieve from loss. L'chadodi on page 23, the first two stanzas, page 25, the last two stanzas. L'chadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Ishmiyanu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemo tiferet v'litila. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat l'chu v'nelcha Ki mekor habracha Merosh mikedem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin osmo tiferotzi V'et Adonai ta'aritzi Al yarish ben partzi V'nismecha v'nagila. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. Bo'i b'shalom ateret balach Gam b'simcha u'v'tzohala Toch emunei am sgula Bo'i chala L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi lekrat kalam P'nei Shabbat nikabela. We are seated, turn to the Psalm for Shabbat on page 27. Page 27 on the English side. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name most high, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. Finger the lute, pluck the harp, let the sound of the lyre rise up. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork. How wonderful are your works, Adonai, how subtle your designs. The arrogant do not understand. The fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms, only to be destroyed forever. But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Tzadikat Amar Yifrach Kerez Balvanon Yizka Shetulim Beveit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenovon Beseva Teshenim Vrananim Yeyo Lahagid Ki Ashar Adonai Suri V'lo Avlatabo. We've mentioned it a number of times, points within the psalm as to why this psalm is associated with Shabbos. We've spoken about creation, God, but I think there's another reason why this is associated with Shabbat. I see two perspectives on people in this psalm: the righteous and the wicked. And every single week, you and I have a choice to make. How are we going to live our lives? To the positive, to the plus, to the gentle, to the respectful, to the loving, to the honorable, to the righteous, or otherwise. And as a result of that perspective that's on my mind right now, we have another song sheet. It's entitled Hillel's Song. This is a second piece. And this song is a contemporary piece, but it's based upon a teaching, a lesson found in the book known as Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, which is actually a section of Mishnayot found in the Talmud. And you see here this translation, and the gist, the teaching is, wherever you are, you have the choice. Are you going to be the right kind of person or not? Hillel's Song.
A long time ago, there lived a great teacher. Hillel was his name. People would ask him all kinds of questions. His wise answers brought him fame. Someone once asked, in a place that is evil, how are we supposed to behave? Hillel thought for a moment, he pondered the question, and this is the answer he gave. B'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim. Hillel omer, ishtadel lehiot. Has two inclinations, for evil and for good. Hillel knew that it's not always easy to act the way we should. So we look to our parents, our teachers, our children, and we search for the answer inside. And in the struggle between what's right and what's wrong, we let this lesson be our guide. B'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim. Hillel omer, ishtadel lehiot. Where peace others as we travel along the road. But if we remember the words of wise Hillel, we will always know which way to go. When we find ourselves in a place that is evil and we don't know how to behave, if we stop for a moment and ponder the question, we'll remember the answer he gave. B'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim, b'makom she'ein anashim, Hillel omer ishtadel lehiyot, Hillel omer ishtadel lehiyot, Hillel omer ishtadel lehiyot. B'makom she'ein anashim, in a place with no human, that's just trying to be human.
Halavai, we'll all be the right kind of person in the right place. We rise now, Baruch Hu, page 39a. Baruch Hu et Adonai Amavorach. Baruch Baruch Le'olam Vaed. And we are seated. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El chai v'kayam, tamidim lo chaleinu amved. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. The Hebrew side, page 40. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shachveinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki em chayenu v'orech yameinu v'orech yameinu u'v'hem negeh yomam v'layla V'ahavatecha al tasim imenu le'olamim. Baruch ata Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Chama. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayo hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha v'lechtecha v'derech v'shachbecha v'kumecha u'keshartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beninecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha. Adonai Elohechem emet. Please turn to page 43b. On the left-hand side, in the margin, there's a little bit of poetry. It's the last three little stanzas on page 43b in the lower left corner. It begins with, "You commanded. You commanded us to cease from our labor, that we might find joy and peace in Shabbat. For we were not made only to labor, we must rest and reflect that we may sense your presence. We thank you, our Creator, for the gift of Shabbat, your gift to Israel that blesses all of humanity." On page 44. Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norat ilot osei felem, malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokeh yam lifnei Moshe, zeili Anuv Yamro, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed, V'ne'emar Ki fadarno et Yaakov, Ugalom Yar Chazak Mimenu, Baruch Ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And in a moment, yes, we're looking at the Hashkivenu, but we'll also look at that other song sheet, which is entitled Vahavienu. And allow me to make a thought for just a moment. Hashkivenu, as you know, originated to be recited as an individual reflection, a silent prayer before going to sleep at night. And it's a prayer that calls out for peace for the entire world. And then it left the bedside and moved into the official evening service. So if you're following the traditional prayer system, you say the Hashkivenu twice every night. I say it in the evening service, Ma'arif, and I also say we're going to sleep at night, and I think about people throughout the world who need a sense of being reassured and blessed with peace and calm, but also within the Hashkivenu. And it's really, I think, tied here at the bottom of page 45. It's the bottom of the last 3 or 4 lines. It's Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chaim shalom, which literally means guard us as we walk into a room and guard us as we walk out of a room. And I think it refers to as you're exiting in your home, you're exiting your home, you're coming back into your home, wherever we are, we're always walking and we're journeying. And this prayer teaches that we're journeying together. We're journeying together. And may we be journeying together in peace. And for this reason, I bring us the Vahabienu. So allow me, please, we'll do the last 5 lines on page number 45 on the English side, and then we'll sing along with Craig Talman here on the song sheet. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. Vahabienu.
Your memories collect into one, your hopes and your dreams collect into one, your destiny collect into one, all that life brings. Ve'havienu l'shalom, l'shalom, l'shalom. Ve'havienu l'shalom, ve'arba confortables. These are the fringes that bind us together, pulling us closer together in peace. These are the fringes bringing us closer. These are the fringes, precious and sweet. Ve'havienu l'shalom, l'shalom, l'shalom. Shalom, me arba confortare. The promise of our past, the prayers of today, the dreams of tomorrow, you show us the way, true and enduring, awesome, revered. These are the fringes drawing us near. Ve'havienu l'shalom, l'shalom, l'shalom. Shalom, me arba confortare. Ve'havienu l'shalom, l'shalom, l'shalom. Ve'havienu
May we all come together in peace. The top of page 46. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam beinu v'ein b'nei Yisrael oti la'olam oti la'olam oti le'olam v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam Yitgadol v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Dom tevei b'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Bagala u'b'zman kariv v'imero Amen Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach La'olam li'olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'man v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'rechu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'imeru Amen. We now rise to the Silent Amida, found traditionally page 47 to 52. 47 to 52 are an opportunity for us to make up our own personal silent prayer in silence. It's been cold. It's been so cold that I wondered, why did I come to sunny Alabama? I thought it was always going to be warm and tempered and mild here. Golly, I remember, well, that's not really why I left Connecticut, but anyway. But instead of giggling, well, it's always good to giggle, I want to study a little Bible with you. So, turn in your seat order page 138. It's time to study a little bit of Tanakh, and we're turning to page 138. Page 138. According to our tradition for over 2,000 years, every single morning, people say a few prayers, and within those prayers is a group of 5 psalms. Ashrei is the most famous, but there are a few psalms that follow the Ashrei, and this is on my mind. If you look at, on page 138, the next to last stanza, near the bottom of the page, it's the 4th stanza down on page 138, and we say this every single morning of the year. God sends the divine word to earth. How quickly these commands are obeyed. Snow piles up like fleece, frost spreads like ash, hailstones are tossed like crumbs. Who can withstand the cold? Sounds like the past 3 days here in Mobile and Pensacola, reaching all the way across the central Gulf Coast. Who can withstand the cold because there's so much snow and ice and cold and wintry blasts? And word is sent for the ice to melt, and winds cease blowing, and water flows, and things become temperate once again. So, first blush, you're now Bible analysts. What is the message in this little stanza of Psalm 147?
It's going to get better.
It's going to get better. You're more profound than me, Professor Doctor. It's going to get better. In addition to that, number one, it's going to get better. Why does cold weather happen, according to this? Not because of Arctic blasts, but why does cold weather happen?
God said it's a divine word.
God says so. God speaks, and the world comes into being. Does that sound familiar? God speaks. God's word comes forth, and something happens in the word. Does that sound familiar? Of course it does. It sounds a lot like the opening line of Genesis, obviously. So I want you to understand, when we're studying Tanakh, Hebrew Bible, if we keep our eyes and our ears open, and we're in one section, we're going to start hearing and detecting glimmerings and references to other sections of the Bible. That just shows how attuned and how insightful you all are as students of Tanakh. Congratulations. So that's step number one. Plus, as Dr. Cohen said, it's going to get better. Now let's go back to the top of the page. This is where I want to start. And the first line is an introduction. Hallelujah, praise God. How good to sing to our God. Sweet and delightful words of praise, which means that the Siddur asserts that your words are sweet and precious. The Siddur, or the Bible, because it's really from the Bible and it's just quoted in the Siddur, is confident in your words as being valued and cherished by God. Right away, the Siddur is guaranteeing that your words are important. That's a point of optimism. Now let's look at the opening stanza. Adonai will rebuild Jerusalem, and God will gather in the dispersed people of Israel, which tells us right away that this psalm is thinking about a situation when people are not in their native habitat. And the native habitat for ancient Israel is Jerusalem and Israel. So something must have been going awry, and the message within the first sentence is that God is going to help to bring the people home again, which kind of dovetails with your observation about the last stanza, that God is going to be active in making things better. So we could call, what would you summarize this first sentence as referring to if you used a modern English terminology? It's an optimistic point. People who have no place to go are going to have a place to go. People who have had suffering and loss are going to be restored to their homes. That's hopeful, it's optimism, it's confidence, it's a cure for homelessness. Who is going to be cared for? The entire community of Israel. We're all in this together. Now look at the next line. And I love this line. I say this every single day. Harofei lishivurei lev u'machabesh la'atzvotam. God is the one who heals the broken-hearted and binds their wounds. And these are medical terms. Heals the brokenhearted is the term that's used in the ancient days in modern Hebrew for a doctor, both as a verb and as a noun. A physician or a healer who is healing. That's right. So God is going to heal. But God's healing, is somebody sick if he or she is brokenhearted? Are you sick when you're brokenhearted? Yes. You might be. But if we're brokenhearted, normally what do we think of? Which verbs would we associate with brokenhearted as needing? So if somebody is sad, which verbs would be introduced to address somebody who is sad? In English, which verbs would we use? Comfort. Comfort, care, reassure, share hope, empathize, love. Try to make people feel better. Isn't it interesting that when somebody is brokenhearted, according to this psalm, the verb that's associated with God is not comfort and love and reassure, and we have many of those verbs in Hebrew and in the Bible, but the verb that's used is a medical term, a therapeutic term. Isn't that a powerful message? That God as a physician is by your side when you are brokenhearted. And furthermore, when we look at the next verb within that same phrase, God binds the wounds there, which means everyone. God is involved in literally binding the wounds. And the modern Hebrew word from this, two forms. Number one, it's a splint. And number two, it's a battlefield medic. God is the battlefield medic who has come to your side and my side with the equipment necessary to put a splint on your limb or bandage on your wound. And I read this every day. And every day it makes me feel better. Because there is an intimacy, and there's an urgency, and there's an immediacy to God's presence in my life, in your life, in all of our lives when things are tough. And it's in the backdrop, or it's the background of the first line. The first line is rebuilding Jerusalem and bringing people who are in need of a home and hope and optimism together. And the second line is talking about healing and reassurance and presence and closeness and care. I love this passage. The next line, who is God? God is the one who counts the stars and names each and every one of them. God is defined as the astrophysicist par excellence. And if you've ever seen any of those exciting YouTube videos or films or shows talking about astronomy and explorations of the galaxy and the universe, and you see the majesty and the complexity and the vast grandeur. And this psalm is saying, just a reminder, God built it. These hundreds of millions of stars that are cascading across the heavens are there because God's in charge of every single one. And if God is building every single one, then God knows every star, every planet, every particle wave, every bit of structure in the heavens. And God is also right by your side when your heart needs fixing and your arm needs bandaging. And God is right by your side when you feel like you're alone and you need a sense to be brought back home with a message of hope and optimism. And God is the one who at the very end says, you know what? It's been awfully warm lately. Mobile, Alabama needs a little bit of snow and cold just to shake things up a little bit. But don't worry, things are going to get better. This is Psalm 147, B'Kitzur. And obviously we're free to look at it now. But now you know a psalm that's recited every single morning by tradition. You can look at it on your own. Perhaps you might be interested in reflecting upon it or meditating upon it on some occasion. And you see some themes here. And the overall message is that God is as close and intimate as you and I are inclined to see God within our own perspective. There's a presence and there's a closeness. And that's what I want. And that's what I hope that you can perhaps appreciate as well.
Since the reference is to God rebuilding Jerusalem and gathering the dispersed, we have to assume that the temple has been destroyed.
Likely.
People have been scattered.
Likely, yes.
I had always thought that the Psalms were written prior to the destructions.
So how do I understand that? So there are 150 Psalms in the Tanakh. The general perspective is that King David wrote all these Psalms. Historians are not exactly certain if they agree with that, and historians would say that my perspective, having studied, is that King David began what we would call a school of symbolic poetry and music.
Okay.
And remember, in the ancient days, Psalms were sung poems. They were sung religious and spiritual music. And I would say that David started this school, this genre of writing and performance, you might say, sacred performance. And then as people were influenced by this school, this style, they continued to write, perhaps even after David died. And that would have been handed down generationally. So a quick sum is that perhaps some or many of the Psalms were written by David or during his time period or a generation or two thereafter, but other Psalms were continually emerging over a span of many, many decades, even centuries later. So if that holds true, and we can't prove it, of course, then we would say that this would be a later psalm because of that phrasing of Jerusalem seemingly is destroyed and the need to be rebuilt, and that would be associated with the destruction of Jerusalem by Babylonia, the first Tisha B'Av, which is time frame 340 years after David, roughly. 330, 340, 350 years after David.
Or the destruction of the second temple.
I don't think we'd have Psalms written that late. Most historians would say that if you're looking at the style of Psalms, that Psalms would be finalized by approximately the first Tisha B'Av, the 580s, maybe a little bit closer to time, 550s or so, but probably not as late as the second temple. So. So now we rise. The Aleinu is on page number 56. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol latet gedula liotzer breishit Shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot adama Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'goraleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim yosed haaretz u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim mimal u'shchinatu zo begavei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od emet malkeinu efes zulato kakatu betorato v'yadat ayom v'ashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim mimal v'al haaretz mitachot ein od. Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihyeh Adonai echad u'shema echad. Please now remain standing. Page 58. I should say one more thing, Richard. One of the elements that really led to the establishment of the conservative movement is the embracing of history and the study of tradition in an analytical manner. That's the definition of conservative movement. Whereas a more traditional approach would say King David was a prophet, and he knew prophetically that at a certain point in time, hundreds of years after his life, there would be a destruction of the temple and people would be cast into exile and then would eventually come back. So that's a different approach. It is part of our tradition. It's not something that I personally subscribe to. But we're not going to make fun of people with different Jewish views and perspectives because it's part of our tradition. So likewise, another element within the conservative movement is the acceptance of a pluralistic approach, recognizing that there are different views out there. So, and now we remember all of our loved ones. And in this Shabbat, we remember Morris Olinsky, Jacob Kramer, Joe Lava, Ralph Weed, Herman Collette, Fanny Silverstein, Samuel Leventhal, Bernice Davidoff, Lena Mitchell, Norman Ratner, Sam Williams, Martin Grodnick, Kenneth Sherman, David Grishman, Moody Grishman, remember Marjorie Slavin, Joseph Cohen, Frida Buckman, Grace Friedman, Celia Olinsky, Lena Rosenberg. Are there any other names to mention tonight? Perhaps those who don't have a name to share, and we're remembering all of our people in Israel. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabo, amen. Be'alma divra chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zaman kariv, v'miru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mivarach la'olam ol'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudasha, burichu, la'ela min kol berchata, v'shirata, tushbechata, v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'olma, v'imru, amen. Yehi Shalama Rabba Min Shemaya V'Chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imaru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imaru Amen. And let's conclude with Oseh Shalom. We'll make Kiddush Motzi. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Imru, Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. And may we all bring shalom into the world. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom. And to all of you joining in, may God bless you. Please know that you are loved. You're an important part of our lives. We hope that you're blessed with shalom and good health, happiness, and peace. We hope to see you at some point in your future. Until that point, good Shabbos.